Commander Alexis Warren stood at the observation deck of the Imperial vessel, Dominance, watching the blue-green planet below. Earth, as its inhabitants called it. The third planet of an unremarkable yellow star system, but Warren knew there was something remarkable about its people. Warren ran his three-fingered hand over his scarred face. 50 years of military service to the Vorzian Empire had taught him to see what others missed, and what he saw on Earth worried him deeply. The other officers avoided him now. They called him the human sympathizer behind his back. Warren didn't care. He had fought in 17 planetary conquests and had more battle honors than anyone in the Imperial fleet. He had earned the right to be cautious. "Commander, the High Council is ready for your report," said Lieutenant Krex, a young officer, who still showed Warren proper respect. Warren nodded and followed Krex to the communication chamber. The holographic projections of the 7 members of the High Council flickered to life around him. Their tall, thin bodies and elongated heads looked down at him with impatience. "Commander Warren, you requested this emergency meeting. Explain." "Yourself," said Grand Marshal Zorix, the head of the council. Warren stood straight. "Honored Council, I must urge you to reconsider the invasion plan for Earth." Murmurs of annoyance rippled through the council. They had already approved the plan 2 days ago. "The standard protocol of targeting the female population first will not work with humans," Warren continued. "My team has studied Earth cultures for 3 years now. Their females are not what they appear. All species protect their breeding population, Commander. This is hardly new information," said Council Member Draz with obvious boredom. Warren activated his datapad. Images of women in various roles appeared in the center of the room. Soldiers, scientists, leaders, mothers. Earth women are fully integrated into their society. They are not just for breeding like on many worlds we've conquered. They hold positions of power, knowledge, and influence. More importantly, they form the emotional center of human families. Warren switched to new images, human males in what appeared to be battle rage. Humans have a protective instinct that goes beyond rational thinking. In their history, the death of women and children has triggered the most extreme and violent responses from their males. If we kill their women, we won't cripple them. We will enrage them beyond anything we've seen. Grand Marshal Zorix sighed loudly. "Commander Warren, your long service is respected, but your time observing these primitives has clearly affected your judgment. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their aircraft are laughably slow." "It's not about their technology," Warren insisted. "It's about their psychology, their will. Humans don't surrender when the odds are impossible. They become more dangerous." Council Member Terax, the youngest of the group, laughed. "Are you suggesting these primitive mammals could pose a threat to the Vorzian Empire? We who have conquered 300 worlds?" Warren looked directly at Terax. "Yes." The laughter stopped. The council members looked at each other, unsure if Warren had lost his mind or was making some kind of poor joke. "Explain yourself, Commander," Zorix demanded, his voice cold. "Humans are unique. They wage war differently. When most species face a superior force, they calculate the odds and surrender to save lives. Humans don't. Their history is full of examples where they fought to the last person against impossible odds." Warren showed more images, human historical battles where small forces held against much larger ones. And when humans believe they're fighting for survival, they change. Their scientists become weapon makers. Their artists become propaganda masters. Their ordinary citizens become guerrilla fighters. They set aside all internal conflicts to face an outside threat. Council Member Vala, the only female on the council, leaned forward. "What do you propose instead, Commander?" "A different approach. Diplomatic contact. Peaceful integration into the Empire as a protected species. They have cultural and creative qualities that could benefit us." The council erupted in dismissive comments. The Vorzian Empire did not diplomatically integrate species they conquered. They ruled. That was the way for 5,000 years. Grand Marshal Zorix raised his hand for silence. "Commander Warren, Your concerns are noted. However, the invasion will proceed as planned. The female targeting strategy has worked on every world from the Andromeda Arm to the Outer Rim. Humans are not special. Warren felt a cold weight in his chest. He had failed to convince them. If we must invade, he tried one final time, at least change the targeting protocols. Take their military bases first, their government centers. Leave their civilian populations alone until they surrender. Enough, Zorix's voice boomed. Your emotional attachment to this species is concerning, Commander. You are relieved of your observation duties effective immediately. Return to Vorzia Prime for reassignment. The council members' holograms disappeared one by one. Only Vala lingered for a moment, looking at Warren with what might have been doubt before she too vanished. Lieutenant Kreck stood awkwardly by the door. Commander, are you all right? Warren looked at his data pad, at the images of Earth, families, in parks, children playing, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Soon many of them would be gone. No, Lieutenant, I am not all right. Warren walked past him. Prepare my shuttle. I'll leave for Vorzia Prime immediately. As Warren packed his few belongings in his quarters, he looked once more at Earth through his viewport. They wouldn't listen to him. Nobody listened to old soldiers except when they said what the politicians wanted to hear. He thought about the humans he had observed. Greg Johnson, the farmer in Iowa who worked from sunrise to sunset to feed his family. Sophia Williams, the surgeon who saved lives with skilled hands and quick decisions. Little Adam Parker, who played with toy rockets and dreamed of reaching the stars someday. None of them knew what was coming. None of them deserved what would happen. Warren took one last item from his desk, a small communication device not registered with the Imperial systems. A desperate measure he had hoped not to use. He had failed to stop the invasion through official channels, but an old soldier like him always had contingency plans. As his shuttle pulled away from the Dominance, Warren looked back at the massive invasion fleet gathering in Earth's orbit. 500 warships, 30,000 troops, enough firepower to bring any planet to its knees. But Warren knew something the High Council refused to understand. Earth would not kneel. And when the Empire realized its mistake, it would be too late. In 2 days, the invasion would begin. The Empire would strike at Earth's women, thinking it was removing the planet's heart. Instead, they would awaken something they had never faced before. Fleet Admiral Ezra Daniels poured coffee into his wife's favorite mug. The morning sun streamed through their kitchen window in San Diego, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table. Olivia smiled at him as she buttered her toast, her dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. You're staring again, she said without looking up. Ezra grinned. 20 years of marriage and I still can't help it. Their peaceful morning routine was interrupted by a sudden tremor that shook the house. Coffee sloshed over the rim of their mugs. The china cabinet rattled. Earthquake? Olivia asked, but Ezra's military instincts were already on high alert. This didn't feel like any earthquake he had experienced before. His phone rang. The caller ID showed it was from Naval Command. Admiral Daniels, he answered, his voice instantly shifting to its command tone. The voice on the other end was tight, with tension. Sir, we have multiple unknown craft entering Earth's atmosphere. Hundreds of them. They're not responding to any communications. Ezra looked at Olivia, who was watching him with concern. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Put all forces on high alert. As he hung up, the TV in their living room automatically switched on with an emergency broadcast. Images showed massive dark ships descending over major cities worldwide. New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing. What is it? Olivia asked, though her eyes said she already knew. I have to go, Ezra said, already moving to get his uniform. Stay here. It should be safe. We're not near any major targets. Olivia followed him to their bedroom. Ezra, if this is what I think it is... A blinding flash of light cut her off as something massive struck less than a mile away. The shock wave hit their house seconds later, shattering windows and knocking them both to the floor. Ezra's ears rang as he pushed himself up. Olivia? He called out. panic rising in his chest when she didn't immediately answer. He found her under a fallen bookshelf. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but she was conscious. He helped her up, checking for other injuries. "I'm okay," she insisted, though her voice shook. "Go, they need you." Another explosion rocked the neighborhood, closer this time. Ezra looked out the broken window and froze. A massive ship, at least a mile long, hovered over downtown San Diego. Smaller craft swarmed from it like angry insects, firing energy weapons at the ground. His phone rang again. This time it was his executive officer, Commander Alan Bell. "Sir, Naval Command has been hit. Direct strike. We've lost contact with the Pentagon and most major military installations." Ezra's mind raced. This wasn't a random attack. This was targeted, strategic. "Where are you now?" he asked Bell. "USS Independence, sir. We were running drills offshore when it started. Captain Rivera has taken us underwater to avoid detection." "Good. Stay there. I'm coming to you." Ezra turned to Olivia. "I need to get to the submarine. You have to come with me. It's not safe here." They barely made it to their car when a strange aircraft appeared overhead. Unlike the larger ships, this one was small and seemed to be scanning the area. A beam of light swept the neighborhood. Ezra pulled Olivia behind a wall. "They're looking for something specific," he whispered. The scanner passed over their hiding spot and moved on. As soon as it was gone, they rushed to the car and drove toward the coast, taking back roads to avoid the areas under attack. The city was in chaos. People ran in all directions. Some buildings were completely destroyed while others stood untouched. It made no sense until Ezra noticed a pattern. "They're targeting places where women gather," he realized aloud. "Look, that's a women's college. And there, that's a women's health clinic." Olivia looked at the destruction in horror. "Why would they do that?" "I don't know, but we need to get to the sub." They were 3 miles from the naval base when another scan beam swept over their car. This time it stopped and focused on them, or more specifically on Olivia. "Get down!" Ezra shouted, but it was too late. A pulse of energy hit their car, flipping it off the road. The world spun violently before everything went black. Ezra woke to the taste of blood and the smell of burning metal. The car was upside down in a ditch. He was still buckled in his seat, hanging upside down. "Olivia?" he called out, his voice hoarse. No answer. He unbuckled himself, falling painfully to the roof of the car. Olivia wasn't in the passenger seat. The door on her side was torn open. Crawling out of the wreckage, Ezra stood on shaky legs. There was no sign of her anywhere. But in the dirt, he saw strange 3-toed footprints that didn't belong to any animal or human. A shadow fell over him. Looking up, Ezra saw a small craft hovering nearby. For a moment he thought he saw Olivia inside, unconscious, along with several other women. Then the craft shot upward, disappearing into the belly of the massive ship above. Grief and rage swept through him like a physical force. His training kicked in. He had to reach the Independence. He had to fight back. 3 hours later, bruised and bloodied, Admiral Daniels arrived at a hidden cove where a small boat waited. Commander Bell had sent it for him. As they sped toward the submarine's location, Bell gave him the full report over a secure radio. "It's happening worldwide, sir. They're specifically targeting women. Major cities, small towns, doesn't matter. They take the women and kill anyone who tries to stop them." "Any contact? Any demands?" Ezra asked. "None, sir. But we're not alone. We've received communications from Russian, Chinese, and European forces. Everyone's in the same situation." The small boat reached the Independence's position, and Ezra was brought aboard. In the submarine's command center, he found not just American officers but representatives from other nations who had managed to reach the submarine. Captain Maya Rivera, the Independence's commanding officer, was one of the few women who had escaped the initial attack. She stood at the center of the room, coordinating communications. "Admiral on deck," someone announced, and the room snapped to attention. Rivera approached him. "Sir, we've established contact with surviving military units worldwide. Former enemies are reaching out, ready to work together." Ezra nodded grimly. "Patch me through to all of them." As the communications were established, Ezra looked at the faces around him. American, Russian, Chinese, British, all united by a shared loss and a burning determination. "This is Fleet Admiral Ezra Daniels," he began. "Today we face an enemy that has taken our loved ones, attacked our world, and believes we will break. They have made one critical mistake. They don't understand what they've done by taking our women." He paused, thinking of Olivia. "They've just created the most dangerous fighting force this galaxy has ever seen. A unified humanity with nothing left to lose. And we're going to make them regret it." 6 months had passed since the invasion began. What the Vorzians had expected to be a simple 3-month operation had turned into a grueling war with no end in sight. The aliens had established control over major cities around the world, but they could not venture far beyond them without facing fierce resistance. Lisa Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead as she adjusted the frequency settings on her device. The basement laboratory was hot and cramped, filled with salvaged equipment and 6 other scientists working around the clock. Before the invasion, Lisa had been a sound engineer at a music studio in Nashville. Now she led a team developing weapons against the alien invaders. "Try it now," she said to Alan, a former physics teacher who had lost his wife and daughter in the first wave of attacks. Alan activated the device. A high-pitched sound, just at the edge of human hearing, filled the room. Through a reinforced glass window, they watched as the captured Vorzian soldier began to shake violently, its 3-fingered hands clutching at the sides of its elongated head. "That's it," Lisa said, quickly turning down the frequency. "Their hearing range is different from ours. This frequency disrupts something in their nervous system." The alien stopped shaking but remained disoriented, stumbling around its cell like a drunk person. "How long until we can make portable versions?" asked Sam, a military liaison who had been sent by Admiral Daniels. Lisa checked her notes. 2 weeks, maybe less if we can get more parts. The technology is simple enough, just specialized speakers that can produce the exact frequency. Sam nodded. "I'll make sure you get whatever you need. This could change everything." 50 miles away, in the forest outside what used to be Atlanta, Ryan Harrison moved silently through the trees. 6 other fighters followed him, each carrying a mix of conventional weapons and improvised tools. Ryan had been a police officer before the invasion. Now he led one of the most effective resistance cells on the East Coast. "Target is half a mile. Head," he whispered into his radio. "Team 2 in position?" "In position," came the reply from Kelly, who led the second team. "We have eyes on the supply convoy. 5 vehicles, light guard." Ryan checked his watch. "Remember, we hit hard and fast. Take the supplies and disable the vehicles. We're not trying to kill them all, just bleed them slowly." This was the new strategy that had evolved over months of fighting. Early on, humans had tried direct confrontations and lost badly. Vorzian technology was too advanced, their weapons too powerful. But humans were adaptable. They had learned the aliens' patterns and weaknesses. The Vorzians were creatures of habit who relied heavily on their technology. They struggled with Earth's varied environments. Dense forests confused their sensors, mountains blocked their communications, and they hated water, avoiding it whenever possible. Ryan's team reached their ambush position just as the Vorzian convoy came into view. The alien vehicles hovered a few feet above the ground following the old highway. "Now," Ryan ordered. From hidden positions, his fighters triggered devices that sprayed a thick chemical mist across the road. The chemicals were harmless to humans, but reacted with the Vorzian skin, causing intense irritation, another weakness discovered through trial and error. As the convoy slowed and Vorzian soldiers jumped out, scratching frantically at their exposed skin, Ryan's team opened fire with conventional weapons aimed at vulnerable joints in the aliens' armor. Meanwhile, Kelly's team attacked from behind with modified flamethrowers. The Vorzians hated fire even more than water, a psychological fear that humans had quickly exploited. In less than 10 minutes, it was over. 4 Vorzian soldiers were dead. 3 had fled into the forest where other resistance fighters would track them, and the convoy's supplies, food, medicine, and weapons were being loaded onto human trucks. "Good work," Ryan said as Kelly approached. Minimal ammunition used, maximum results. Kelly nodded, her face grim behind the dirt smudges. Found something interesting in the lead vehicle. Looks like communication logs. Might be useful to the codebreakers. This was another part of the human strategy, gathering intelligence. Over months, they had pieced together an understanding of Vorzian language and technology. Each small victory provided more pieces of the puzzle. Aboard the orbiting Vorzian command ship Dominance, Sub-Commander Thex stared at the latest casualty reports with growing concern. This was his first command after the previous commander had been reassigned, and it was not going well. Another supply convoy lost, he muttered. That's the third this week. Lieutenant Krex stood nearby, nervous as always when delivering bad news. The humans are using new tactics, sir. They're targeting our communication system specifically, and there are reports of a new weapon, something that affects our nervous system. Thex slammed his fist on the console. This was supposed to be an easy conquest. A primitive species with primitive weapons. Sir, Krex said carefully. Perhaps Commander Warren was right about these humans. Warren is a traitor and a sympathizer, Thex snapped, though doubt had begun to creep into his mind as well. Double the guards on all convoys, and speed up the processing of the captured females. The High Council wants results. In the holding area of the ship, thousands of human women were kept in stasis pods, Olivia Daniels among them. The Vorzians hadn't killed them as originally planned. Instead, they were studying them, trying to understand why removing them hadn't broken human society as expected. Thex was interrupted by an urgent communication alert. A message was coming in on a secure channel, directly from Vorzia Prime. He dismissed Krex before accepting the transmission. The holographic image that appeared was not the High Council as expected, but a single Vorzian, Commander Warren, looking older and more worn than when he had left Earth orbit 6 months ago. Sub-Commander. Thex? Warren said, his voice carrying no warmth. I see you've been promoted since I left. Thex straightened his posture. Commander Warren, this is unexpected. I've been monitoring your progress, or lack thereof, Warren said. 6 months and you still haven't secured the planet. The High Council is becoming impatient. We face unexpected resistance, Thex admitted reluctantly. Warren's expression didn't change. Not unexpected to me. I warned them what would happen if they targeted the women. The humans are still primitives, Thex insisted. They have no space capability, no energy weapons. It's just taking longer than anticipated. Is that why you've lost over 2,000 soldiers already? To primitives? Warren leaned closer to the camera. This is only the beginning, Sub-Commander. I tried to tell them what would happen. Now you're seeing it firsthand. Before Thex could respond, Warren continued. The Council has authorized me to evaluate the situation personally. I'll be arriving at Earth in 3 days. The transmission ended, leaving Thex staring at empty space. He felt a chill run down his spine. Commander Warren returning could only mean the High Council was far more concerned than they had admitted. And somehow, Thex suspected Warren wasn't coming to help him win this war. He was coming to witness his prediction come true. Commander Warren's shuttle approached Earth with caution. He had come alone against the advice of the High Council. They had wanted to send a full security team, but Warren knew that would only complicate things. He needed to move freely to see the truth of what was happening on this planet. The shuttle's cloaking system kept it hidden from both Vorzian and human detection as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Warren had chosen a landing site in a remote forest area, far from any major Vorzian outpost but close enough to a known human resistance camp. It was a risk, but one he felt was necessary. As the shuttle touched down in a small clearing, Warren checked his equipment one last time. He wore light armor under plain clothes rather than a Vorzian uniform. At his hip was a small energy pistol, and in his pack were communication devices, medical supplies, and enough food for several days. Most importantly, he carried data files that no one on the High Council knew he possessed, complete records of his observations of Earth before the invasion. Stepping out into the Earth night, Warren breathed deeply. The air was clean here, scented with pine and soil. Stars shone overhead through breaks in the tree canopy. It was hard to believe that such a peaceful scene existed on a world at war. He had walked less than a mile when he sensed he was being watched. Warren continued at the same pace, giving no sign that he had noticed anything. 300 yards. Later, he stopped in a small clearing and spoke clearly in English. "I know you're there. I've come alone and unarmed." This was not entirely true. He did have the pistol, but it was important to appear non-threatening. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then a woman stepped from the shadows, a rifle pointed steadily at Warren's chest. She wore camouflage clothing and had dirt smudged on her face to break up her features in the darkness. Her eyes were hard and suspicious. "You're a long way from your friends, alien," she said, her finger resting near the trigger. Warren slowly raised his hands. "I am Commander Warren of the Vorzian Empire, but I am not your enemy." "All Vorzians are our enemies," the woman replied coldly. "I was the one who warned against this invasion," Warren said. "I told them not to target your women. They didn't listen." The woman's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Prove it." Warren slowly reached into his pocket and removed a small device. "This contains my reports to the High Council. My warnings about what would happen if they attacked Earth as they did." Before he could say more, 4 other humans emerged from the trees, all armed and all aiming at him. "On your knees," ordered a tall man with a beard. "Hands behind your head." Warren complied without argument. They searched him thoroughly, finding and taking his pistol and pack. "Navy SEAL Catherine Wright," the woman finally introduced herself, though she kept her rifle ready. "And you're either very brave or very stupid to come here alone." Warren looked directly at her. "I need to speak with your leaders. I have information that could help end this war." Catherine studied him for a long moment. "Blindfold him," she finally ordered. "We'll let the Admiral decide what to do with him." The journey took hours. They bound Warren's hands and covered his eyes, then led him through forests and what felt like underground tunnels. He did not resist or complain. He had expected this treatment or worse. When they finally removed his blindfold, Warren found himself in what appeared to be an old military bunker. The walls were concrete, the lighting harsh and bright. Before him sat Admiral Ezra Daniels, looking much older than in the images Warren had seen 6 months ago. "So," Daniels said, his voice hard as steel, "you're the Vorzian who claims he tried to prevent all this." Warren stood straight. "Yes, Admiral. I warned the High Council that targeting Earth's women would not break your people's will to fight. I told them it would have the opposite effect." "And why would a Vorzian commander care about humans?" Daniels asked skeptically. "I've studied warfare for 50 years across many worlds," Warren replied. "I recognize patterns. I saw something in human history that the Council refused to see. Your species doesn't surrender when threatened. You fight harder, especially when your families are threatened." Daniels leaned forward. "You expect me to believe you're here out of the goodness of your heart? I'm here because the empire I served for 50 years has become something I cannot support," Warren said simply. "What they've done here, what they continue to do, is not just tactically foolish, it's wrong." Catherine, who stood nearby, spoke up. "Admiral, we found these in his pack." She handed over the data files Warren had brought. "Our tech team says they contain detailed reports about Earth before the invasion, including specific warnings against the attack plan." Daniels took the files but kept his eyes on Warren. "Let's say I believe you oppose this invasion. Why come now? What do you want?" Warren took a deep breath. "The High Council sent me to evaluate the situation. They're growing impatient. Soon, they'll order more drastic measures. Orbital bombardment of your remaining cities, biological weapons designed for humans." The room went silent. "But," Warren continued, "I also know their weaknesses. I know their command structures, their technologies, their strategies, and I know where they're keeping the women they've taken." At this, Daniel stood up abruptly. "Where?" "In stasis pods aboard the command ships. They're studying them, trying to understand why their strategy failed." Warren looked directly at Daniels. "Your wife is on the Dominance. She's alive." Daniels' composure cracked slightly, hope and suspicion warring on his face. How do you know about my wife? I've accessed their databases. I know about many of the captives. Warren stepped closer. Admiral, I can help you save them, but we need to work together. I need you to trust me. Trust? Daniels laughed bitterly. You expect us to trust a Vorsian after what your people have done? No, Warren said quietly. I expect you to be practical. You need the information I have, and I need your help to stop the Empire from destroying both our peoples. Catherine moved to stand beside Daniels. Sir, if what he's saying about orbital bombardment is true, we're running out of time. Daniels stared at Warren for a long moment. You'll remain under guard at all times. You'll share all information with our intelligence team. One hint of betrayal, and I'll kill you myself. Warren nodded. Understood, Admiral. Take him to the strategy room, Daniels ordered Catherine, and get our best people there. As Warren was led away, he saw something he hadn't seen in months, a glimmer of hope. The humans had proven more resilient than even he had predicted. With his knowledge of Vorsian weaknesses and their understanding of unconventional warfare, perhaps there was a chance. In the strategy room, Warren found himself surrounded by suspicious faces, military officers, scientists, and resistance fighters from around the world. They needed him now, but trust would take time to build. Catherine Wright stood nearby, watching him carefully. You mentioned a plan to save our women, she said. Start there. Warren nodded and began to explain what would soon be known throughout. The resistance is the Warren Protocol, a multi-layered strategy to not just fight back against the Vorsians on Earth, but to take the battle to the Empire itself. 5 years had passed since the Vorsian invasion began. What was meant to be a quick conquest had become the Empire's longest and costliest war. The skies above the Vorsian homeworld were filled with an unusual sight. Ships of mixed design, some clearly Vorsian but modified with human touches, others built from scratch using a combination of Earth and alien technology. Admiral Ezra Daniels stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, a vessel that symbolized humanity's incredible journey. From nearly conquered to conqueror, the ship had been built using salvaged Vorsian technology, reverse-engineered by human scientists and improved in ways the aliens never imagined. 5 minutes to target, reported Susan Chen, the weapons officer. Like everyone on the bridge, she had lost family to the Vorsians. Like everyone in the fleet, she fought not just for Earth but for those still held captive. Beside Daniels stood Commander Warren, now wearing a uniform that combined elements of both human and Vorsian design. The past 5 years had aged him, the stress of fighting against his own people etched into the lines of his face. But there was also a sense of peace about him now, the peace that comes from knowing you're on the right side of history. The Imperial Defense Fleet is moving to intercept, Warren said, studying the tactical display. They've called all available. Ships back to protect the capital. Daniels nodded. Just as we expected. He turned to communications. Signal Catherine's team. They're clear to proceed. On the far side of the Vorsian homeworld, a smaller fleet of stealth ships led by Catherine Wright was approaching the planet undetected. While Daniels' fleet engaged the main Vorsian forces in space, Catherine's team would land and target the Imperial High Council directly. The plan had been years in the making. After Warren joined the human resistance, things had changed quickly. His knowledge of Vorsian technology and tactics had allowed humans to capture their first alien ship intact within months. From there, human ingenuity took over. Lisa Martinez's sonic weapons were modified to work on a massive scale, disrupting Vorsian ship systems. Ryan Harrison's guerrilla tactics were adapted for space combat, with small, fast ships striking at weak points in larger Vorsian vessels. But the true turning point had come 3 years ago, when a joint team led by Warren and Catherine had infiltrated the Dominance and freed the captive women, including Olivia Daniels. The data recovered during that mission revealed something unexpected: growing dissent within the Empire itself. Many Vorsians, it seemed, had begun to question the war on Earth and the Empire's expansionist policies. Warren wasn't alone in his concerns, just the first to act on them. This discovery had led to the current strategy, not just defeating the Empire militarily, but changing it from within. They're in range, Susan reported, Weapons ready. Daniels took a deep breath. Fire. The battle was fierce but brief. The Vorzian ships fought with discipline, but lacked the flexibility and improvisation that had become the hallmark of the human-led forces. One by one, Imperial vessels were disabled rather than destroyed, a key part of the strategy. As the space battle raged, Catherine's team landed at the Imperial Palace. With her were both humans and Vorzian rebels who had joined their cause over the years. "Remember," she told her team as they moved through the grand halls of the palace, "we're here for the High Council. No unnecessary casualties." They met resistance, of course. The Imperial Guard fought to protect their leaders with fanatic loyalty. But Catherine's team had surprise on their side, along with weapons specifically designed to incapacitate rather than kill. In the main council chamber, Grand Marshal Zorix and the remaining council members were preparing to evacuate when the doors burst open. "It's over, Marshal," Catherine said, her weapon trained steadily on him. "Your fleet is defeated. Your palace is secured." Zorix looked at the human woman with a mixture of disbelief and rage. "Impossible. You're nothing but primitives." "Primitives who warned you not to underestimate them," came a familiar voice. Warren stepped into the chamber, standing alongside Catherine. The sight of him in his modified uniform caused murmurs among the council members. "Traitor," Zorix spat. "No," Warren replied calmly. "I remained loyal to what the Empire should be, not what you turned it into. Conquerors instead of explorers. Destroyers instead of builders." Back in space, Admiral Daniels received the confirmation signal from Catherine. The Imperial Palace was secured. The High Council was in custody. The core worlds of the Empire, seeing their leaders captured and their fleets defeated, began to surrender one by one. Daniels looked at the viewscreen showing the Vorzian homeworld. "Send the message to all ships and to Earth," he ordered. "Victory." On Earth, Olivia Daniels was among those who received the news first. After her rescue, she had become a key leader in the effort to rebuild human society while the war continued. Now she stood in the control center of what had once been the Vorzian base in San Diego, tears in her eyes as she heard her husband's voice announcing the end of the war. 1 month later, representatives from Earth and all former Imperial worlds gathered on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a star at the edge of Vorzian space. The mood was solemn but hopeful as humans and aliens alike prepared to sign a new charter. The Galactic Council, as it would be known, would replace the Empire. Each world would have equal representation. Conquest would be forbidden, and most importantly, a special provision would protect all beings regardless of gender, race, or species. Warren and Catherine stood together watching as Admiral Daniels and Olivia represented Earth in the signing ceremony. "Do you think it will last?" Catherine asked quietly. The years of fighting had left her cautious about peace. Warren nodded slowly. "I believe it will. Your people showed the galaxy something important. The true strength isn't about technology or numbers. It's about spirit, about standing together against impossible odds." "And your people?" Catherine asked. "Will they accept this new way?" "Many already have," Warren replied. "Those who saw what happened when we ignored my warning. The Empire forgot that different doesn't mean inferior. They thought targeting Earth's women would weaken you. Instead, it revealed your greatest strength, your unity in the face of threat, your refusal to surrender those you love." As the ceremony concluded, a new era began. The story of Earth's resistance spread throughout the galaxy, how a world of primitives had not only survived the Empire's attack, but transformed the galaxy in the process. And at the center of that story was the unlikely friendship between an alien commander who had seen the truth and the humans who had proven him right. "From now on," Warren said as he and Catherine turned to leave the ceremony, "when species meet for the first time, perhaps they will remember Earth, and they will choose understanding over conquest." Catherine smiled. "That's a future worth fighting for." Warren nodded. "And worth building together."